about a subject that I'm very passionate about, and hopefully, and I have a feeling a lot of you are in the room as well, what you can do to boost female talent at work, even though you're not the CEO. Now, obviously, the easiest way to do it is if you are the CEO and you make it a priority for the company. But until that happens, and if that happens, there's a lot of things that all of us can do in this room. But before I start talking about female leadership, I want to tell you a brief story about, well, female leadership. Several years ago, there was a broadcast journalist who did a story on gender roles in Kabul, Afghanistan. And she did this story, and she talked about the custom of women walking 5 steps behind their husbands. And she went back several years later, and she noted that women were still walking 5 steps behind their husbands. Despite the end of the Taliban, she went to an Afghani woman and she said, "I don't understand. Why are you still doing this? You worked so hard to change this custom. Why are you still walking 5 steps behind the husbands?" And the Afghani woman looked at her quite seriously, directly in the eye, and without skipping a beat, she said, "Landmines." Now, obviously, this doesn't happen today. Today, women stand and sit side by side with men until sometimes this happens. Now, this is a picture of me on a panel at the World Economic Forum in Latin America, and in case you can't tell, I'm the one in the red dress. And why this is important is because it exemplifies a lot of what the business world looks like today. And this business world looks like today, 17% of the boards of Fortune 500 companies are women. 15%, even less, 15% of senior executives of the Fortune 500 companies are women. 4.6% are female CEOs of the Fortune 1000 companies. Those are all kind of stunning, and those are very recent figures. And it's a topic that is so important and is being talked about so much that President Obama found room in his State of the Union address to bring it up, which is the first time that's happened. He said, "It's time to do away with workplace policies that belong in a Mad Men episode." But why? Why does it matter? Why do we need to boost female talent into leadership positions? It matters for a couple of reasons. One, competitive advantage. It's a very competitive marketplace that business is operating in today. And in order to remain competitive, you not only have to have the best talent, which is really hard to find, you have to know your market. And with women controlling 65% of spending, it's very important to have, obviously, women in the positions in business making those decisions. Okay. 2, for leadership. No surprise to anyone here, men and women are different. We have different skill sets. Together, we make great leaders. There's a lot of research been done on the subject. This is not my words. This is an example of a myriad of research that's been done on the subject, that together, women and men make for diversity of thought, for an end to groupthink, and for better work environment. It's good for business. It's good for the bottom line. Companies with 3 or more women on their senior management team scored higher on all 9 organizational criteria. That's compared to companies that don't have that. Companies with women on their boards had higher average returns on equity and higher growth. I could do this whole presentations with just these kind of factoids. This is really exemplary of all of the research that's been done on this subject. So here's what we did at Edelman. About 2.5 years ago, Richard Edelman noted, and quite frankly, a lot of the women at the firm noted, that we didn't have enough women in senior positions at the firm. We had plenty of women. We had 69% of our workforce was women, but actually only 39% of the senior leadership was women. We didn't have a diversity problem, we had a glass ceiling problem. So we came up with a program to address it. And Richard Edelman, our CEO, put a line in the sand and said by 2016, 50% of our senior leadership will be women. And what we started was a program called GWEN, which I run for Edelman, and GWEN stands for Global Women's Executive Network. And this is the definition, and basically we create an environment where women are encouraged to stay, learn, grow, and succeed. So how did we bring GWEN to life? We have 66 offices around the world. This is a picture of our office in Hong Kong. We put a steering committee together. We have working groups that focus on everything from policy to mentorship to sponsorship to education. And we've had some kind of extraordinary results. In the 2.5 years that we put this program into place, we've heard unbelievable support and loyalty from our employee base. In the first year, promotions of women into senior leadership positions grew by 25%. The Committee on Economic Development recognized Edelman for this program. And just last week, we were named by the National Association of Female Executives as one of the best places to work. You can clap for that, that's all right. I did, thank you. That's pretty good stuff. But the point is, you don't have to have the CEO draw a line in the sand in order to make a difference. All of us in this room can make a difference. Here are 5 ways. 1, there is power in numbers. Help educate the leadership of your company about what an important business decision is. Business is not doing this today because it's the right thing to do, even though it may be. They're doing it because it's good for the bottom line. Companies with more women on their boards were found to outperform their rivals with a 42% higher return in sales, 66% higher return on invested capital, and 53% higher return on equity. It is good for business. 2, mentorship is good, sponsorship is better. The difference between mentorship and sponsorship is pretty simple. Mentorship is what happens one-on-one. I have a conversation with you, we send an email, we have a video conference. It's that one-on-one engagement. Sponsorship is what happens when you're not in the room. Sponsorship is you participating in a meeting with the senior leadership of your company, and you know a woman who would be great for a role, and you put her name forward. That's called sponsorship. Women are notoriously far worse at sponsorship and far better at mentorship. 2 great examples today from the working world, Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, Ginny Rometty of IBM, are both products of sponsorship, and for what it's worth, they were sponsored by men. 3, promote from within. Companies today tend to over-index on recruitment and under-index on retention. You are never going to achieve these goals if you only focus on retention. Creating an environment where women want to learn and grow and stay and succeed and get promoted, that is the key to success. 4, support flexible schedules. For a company looking to remain competitive and attract top talent, the solution is to find small ways to incorporate flexibility into the organization. And flexibility can be anything from flex time schedules to working and commuting from home. We just instituted a policy, lots of companies are. The world doesn't work from 9 to 5 anymore. And there's a lot of business advantage in allowing employees to work off hours. 5, share your secrets. There is only one Sheryl Sandberg, but there are numerous women who gracefully embody the possibility of the and. All of their stories should be shared so that girls and young women can find inspiration in their examples. You can't be it if you don't see it. For me, the way that I live this, it's really important to me that I have dinner with my 2 sons every night. That when I'm home and I'm not traveling, I'm having dinner with my sons. I feel it's my responsibility to talk about that because I want people at my company, men and women, to feel empowered to make the same choices. Don't mind working after they go to bed, certainly get up fairly early to work, but that's my time, and I make sure that people know that. I'm going to end on a quote by a guy who knows something about business. I'm actually going to end on 2 quotes. This is a guy that knows something about business, and what's so fantastic about Warren Buffett is he sort of figured out what a lot of people are saying, and PwC just did this really interesting study where they really shined a spotlight on how much we are facing a lack of talent resources in this country. And Warren Buffett figured it out. The closer that America comes to fully employing the talents of all its citizens, the greater its output of goods and services will be. We've seen what can be accomplished when we use 50% of our human capacity. If you visualize what 100% can do, you'll join me as an unbridled optimist about America's future. And then the last quote, maybe not too surprisingly, is from a woman who was a cultural anthropologist in the 1950s. Her name was Margaret Mead, and she's one of my favorites, and she said something which I think speaks to the spirit of what we're talking about today. A small group of thoughtful people can change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.